Okay, good morning, everyone. I believe we're live in our group. Welcome to this training. Yeah, you guys are in Business Analyst in Demand Facebook group or on the YouTube channel. My name is Sarabjit Daya. I will be training you guys on today's topic is what behavioral in the day-to-day responsibilities of BAs, right? So this training and this channel, whether you're in the Facebook group or you're watching this on YouTube, is dedicated to help you guys understand what the role of a business analyst is. Not only, there's lots of textbook definitions of what the role defines, but my goal on this journey with you guys is to help you define what the actual BA role is, what techniques are used by BAs to help you guys have a better understanding of what this role entails, okay? So we did a poll in the group. There was lots of topics today. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Just give me maybe a thumbs up or whatever. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. The goal of these training sessions is to be interactive. So if you can't hear me, thank you. All right, sounds good. So there was lots of topics that people wanted to hear about this weekend. So typically I provide live training twice a month. This weekend, there was lots of topics that, we got for training, and the next session, the next highest rank topics I can cover next week. But this week, we're going to be covering what the role, what business analyst roles is on their day-to-day operations. So what do business analysts do on a day-to-day, they show up to work, and then what do they do? So I'll get started. Let's hold your questions till the end of the presentation. I did prepare a few slides for you guys. Let's hold your questions till the end, and then let me know what questions you have, what things don't make sense. What I'm going to be covering today is what BAs do in the Agile environment as well as the Waterfall environment, so that you guys have a good understanding of what the different roles may be. There are Waterfall is the most widely used methodology. Agile is coming up. It's the new buzzword, but not lots of companies are transitioned. Lots of companies are still doing Waterfall and Agile. The hybrid methodology, or the hybrid approach to both Waterfall and Agile. And we'll cover, I'll cover Waterfall and Agile, because what hybrid means is what I don't know. Not that I don't know, but lots of companies may be taking a very different approach to what that may mean. So let's get started, and let me know if you have any questions along the way. So here's our presentation. What we're going to be talking about is what do BAs do on a day-to-day. Again, in the Agile methodology, there is no BA, right? We have Scrum Masters. So the role of a Scrum Master is kind of a fudged entity between a BA and a PM. So in Agile, we don't have business analysts. This group in this role is, since the role of a Scrum Master is kind of fudged from a BA to a PM, I'll cover what your responsibility should be as a Scrum Master as well. Okay, so what is the role of a business analyst traditionally, right? What do you guys do as a business analyst? You typically interface with the customers, and then you interface with technology, and you deliver solutions, right? So when you're working with the business teams, you identify business needs. This is you as a business analyst or a Scrum Master. You get detailed requirements for your technology teams, which define the solution. So you as a business analyst never define a solution, and then you validate the solution with your business partners, right? So you are, as a business analyst or a Scrum Master, you're that middle person that doesn't define the solution, that doesn't define the business need, but you are just kind of like that third person that's talking to the business owners and talking to the technology teams and bringing everybody along in delivering a product or a solution. So that is the traditional role of a business analyst, okay? Now, what does that mean with, things, as I said, are moving Waterfall and Agile. So traditional teams is what I call our Waterfall scenario, and our Agile teams is what is Agile. So in our Waterfall scenario, we typically have seen, the project manager take the lead, on the project itself, and you may have BAs, senior BAs who are helping the project manager, or BAs that are, gathering requirements and defining the solution. But in Agile, it's a self-organizing sort of a team where we have smaller teams, but everybody has a very critical role in delivering that product or solution. Okay. So in what the biggest difference is that in our BA traditional roles, you have a PM or a BA that's leading charge, but in our Agile teams, it's mostly smaller teams that are doing all the work that we would be doing in Waterfall, but in a different approach um, as such. So in Waterfall, we have many different phases, right? We have requirements, design, development, testing, deployment, and maintenance. And the role of a BA, if you're working in the Waterfall scenario, depends on which phase of the which phase of the life cycle that you're on, right? So depending on where your project is, right? So whether you're in the design phase or whether you're in the testing phase of your project will dictate what day-to-day activities you guys will be working on. Typically in the Waterfall scenario, it's very typical for you guys to be managing maybe 2 to 3 projects. And what your project manager or your manager typically will try to do is they will try to give you a project that's, early phases, along with some projects that are, either in deployment right now or closing out, just so you can balance out your day-to-day activities. For BAs, you're very, very heavily involved in the requirements phase, and then you're involved in the testing phase to help your users with a UAT. And then, when we are deploying, you're pretty much involved in that too. So if you're working in the Waterfall scenario, your life and your day-to-day activities will be dependent on which phase of the life cycle your project is on. Okay, and if you're managing 2 to 3 projects, your day-to-day may differ based on which phase those projects are on. So if you're in the requirements phase, so here's the roles and responsibilities if you're working in the Waterfall environment. So in planning, you're typically identifying your stakeholders, you're documenting high-level scope. In the requirements phase, you're meeting with your stakeholders to define what those requirements need to be. You're documenting your to-be and as-is workflow diagrams, and you're basically documenting the requirements that need to be put into something called a BRD, business requirements document. Okay. After that's done, you have to, in the Waterfall scenario, have formal sign-off on BRDs. Then we move on to the design phase. After requirements is done, you create prototypes and mock-ups, you outline the test strategy, you create a change management plan. And then during testing, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be either testing with your stakeholders, you're going to be supporting your stakeholders in doing the testing, you're going to be creating your training materials. And during implementation, you're typically delivering training and you're supporting and guiding your stakeholders. Okay. And then, so we have some deliverables in the Waterfall scenario. In planning, you'll be working on the project charter or statement of work. You're also going to be working on the requirements management plan. In the requirements phase, you're going to be working on something called a BRD, business requirements document. You'll be working on diagrams. You'll be working on your functional requirements documents. And then when we move into design, this is where, as a BA, you're not doing lots of those prototypings. You typically have a UX designer that's doing the prototypings. But as a business analyst, you will be, creating your change management documents. You'll be working on your test plan. You'll be creating change management documentation as well. And then in testing, you'll be executing your UAT with your stakeholders. So you'll have a UAT plan. You'll be, creating a training for your end users once you have an understanding of what the live, production environments look like, and then we will go into implementation. Okay. So with Agile, this is a diagram I'm sure that you guys have all seen on Google. lots of people are reading about Agile, lots of people are trying to understand Agile. This is a diagram that's highly used and highly recognized in our industry. So with that said, what is the role of a Scrum Master? It's lots of things, right? It's lots of things, but it depends on where you are on, again, even in Agile, it depends on where you are on your project, right? So if you are actively managing a sprint, the things that you'll be doing is you'll be doing your daily stand-up. You'll be meeting with your developers and your product owners to make sure that there's no roadblocks. You'll be meeting with your product owner to do backlog grooming to get the next, the other user stories that are on the product backlog ready for the next sprint. So generally, even in the Scrum environment, we do follow all of these life cycles, but they're very, very short in duration. So waterfall projects could take you 6 to 18 months, and agile projects will take you anywhere from, a given sprint is anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. That doesn't mean that every sprint we release functionality. It just means that we commit to finishing a working piece of software every 2 to 4 weeks. And a release could mean that we are releasing software in maybe 2 to 3 sprints. So whenever it's substantial functionality that we have created and we're ready to launch is what we'll do in a release. So you'll have lots of smaller releases in Agile. In Waterfall, you typically have 1 to 2 big releases. And the reason why you have smaller releases in Agile is because you're getting feedback from your customers on small pieces of functionality. And by the time you do a release, could be like maybe a registration page or could be an onboarding process for your customers as such. Okay. So again, what are the roles of a Scrum Master? You are actively working on the product, on the backlog grooming. You're creating a product backlog. I put the product backlog somewhere. If I didn't, you are working on the product backlog. You're grooming your backlog to refine your user stories. You're doing sprint planning. If you finished a sprint, you're doing a story point estimation with your dev team. Before the sprint started, you're working with your product owner to write user stories. You're conducting your daily stand-up. If you're active in a sprint, when a sprint is over, you're doing the sprint retrospective. During the sprint, you're managing velocity of the team to make sure that we're getting enough work done based on what we committed to. Here's a sprint backlog. So once we commit to doing, let's say, 10 user stories, that becomes your sprint backlog. And that's what where developers, when they're finished with the tasks that they're working on, they're going to the sprint backlog and assigning additional user stories to them. Demo or sprint review happens at the end of the sprint to showcase the functionality that we've delivered. We're logging bugs as well, right? So when bugs are identified at demos, we as business analysts or scrum masters could also be logging bugs. And then we're also doing release planning, which could be tying more than one sprint into a release. That is when we're delivering functional software to our customers, to our business owners, to put into production. So that's my presentation for what BAs do on a day-to-day. And the core theme is that we do what, based on which methodology we're in, based on where your project is in the life cycle, determines where you are and what your day-to-day will look like. Now, questions? No questions? Easy breezy? Okay. Questions going once, going twice. And then that's it, you guys. If you have questions later, or if you're watching this on a replay, or if you're watching this on YouTube, post your questions. I do get back to you pretty regularly. And then also let me know what other training topics you guys like me to talk about. I do conduct training sessions twice a month. So please let me know if you have any topics that you guys are interested in. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you, everyone. I'll talk to you guys again later. Bye.